Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and this is another edition of Fresh Red Kills. So, Fresh Red Kills is where I talk about the books that I have recently finished reading. I'm catching up on things really from August. I am making this video in the beginning of September. This is a book that I finished in the first part of August. Yeah, just finally getting around weeks later to actually putting my thoughts on video about it. Now, I had read this actually for two reasons. I'm kind of doing my own mini Stephen King project. You can see behind me a bookshelf filled with Stephen King books. Those have been sitting there waiting to be read for a very long time. These are all around me, these are like my TBR shelves. I'm in my office, and my office has the books that I haven't read yet, and then the library downstairs are the books that I finished reading, and I bring them downstairs. Just the way I like to do things. So whenever I'm in my office, I like to be surrounded by the books that I still have to read. It's nice to have that visual reminder and helps me plan my reading. So one of the projects or goals that I have is to get through all the books by Stephen King that I own. I'm not trying to read every single thing that he's ever written, but you can see I have an extensive amount of things unread. So I'm going to be going through those roughly in publishing order. This is also part of the Reading Banned Books Challenge that I am participating in this year. This was essentially what I did was I looked at the banned book lists from the 2010s, the early 2000s, and the 1990s. And when we say banned books, we're talking about like frequently challenged books. And I was matching up what was on the list with the things that are on my TBR shelves. And Cujo was actually one of them from the 90s list. So I'm also, sort of reading it for that challenge. So Cujo. Now, this was published in 1981, so this copy is actually as old as I am. And I had grown up with the film version of Cujo. It was on television a lot back in the 80s. And a few months ago, I had read The Dead Zone, which was the book before this. And I didn't realize that Cujo it's not quite a sequel, but it sort of is. Part of The Dead Zone the middle part took place in Castle Rock, the fictional town in Maine that Stephen King created. And part of that book dealt with a serial killer. And the serial killer is sort of haunting this book. So this also takes place in Castle Rock. And at least one of the characters, I don't remember this more. There's at least one character from The Dead Zone that ends up appearing in this. I will say I had some issues with The Dead Zone. I like the concept a lot, but I did have some problems with the structure. It felt very kind of disjointed at times, and some of the characterization I wasn't crazy about. So I thought the book was okay. I did actually end up liking this one better, and I really didn't know what to expect. I have sort of mixed feelings about the Cujo film. I think it's decent, but man, the beginning, it's a lot of domestic stuff. And I wasn't sure what to expect from the book, and we get the same sort of thing. However, I'm not entirely disappointed. I think it kind of works a little bit better in the book than it does in the movie. Now, of course, the book is named after Cujo, which everybody knows at this point. It's a rabid Saint Bernard. I think everybody knows what Cujo is. But if you pick up the book thinking that's all it's about, you're really probably going to be disappointed. So it's, Cujo becomes more prominent throughout the book as it goes on. But really, the first half of the book, he's very much a side character. You see him kind of going on, things happening with him here and there. Most of it is really about domestic discontent. It is about families, sort of like younger couples with at least one kid. We follow two families. One of them, this kind of middle-class family, another one more working class. And both of them are dealing with dissatisfaction, with discontent. Life not really turning out exactly the way that they wanted it to. And there's a lot of character reflection and conversation along those lines. That, you're getting older faster than you expect. You thought that you would have accomplished more by this point. Is this really where you want your life going? There's just kind of like, it's not quite midlife crisis, because a lot of these characters seem to be younger. It's more like quarter life crisis. And especially we have, one of our main characters here, and I'm just trying to, okay, Donna, that's right. Again, it's been a few weeks since I finished this. Donna especially is somebody who is very discontent, and I'm going to be minorly spoilery here. She does have an affair, and that is one of the things that, of course, is dealt with in this. And one of the reasons she had the affair was her discontent, right? Um, they had moved from the city to rural Maine, and not sure that her life was going the way that she wanted it to. She was kind of looking for an adventure, that sort of thing. Now, a lot of what this book to me ended up being about, right, is you end up focusing on things like that sometimes when you get to a certain age. And I'm guilty of that sort of thing as well. Not to the extent that some of these characters are. They're getting very melodramatic over these things. But we all kind of feel the passing of time go by quicker, and we have to reassess, and we think, oh, I really thought I'd be somewhere different, or I thought I would have accomplished those things by now. But I think what this is really more about is, when it comes to Cujo, it's not just about a rabid dog. It's about like life throwing you a Cujo, throwing you that curveball that you don't expect. And in those moments, you sort of reassess your life, and you realize what's maybe important and what's more trivial. And these Cujos can be times of terror, often frightening. Sometimes they can result in new opportunities, but they're nevertheless sobering. And I think I kind of came to that realization, especially while I was reading this. I wasn't literally reading at the time. I was more than halfway through the book, and it was the summer, and I was taking one of my regular walks. And I live in a pretty, I live basically on top of a mountain, and very quiet neighborhood, nice back roads, pretty safe area. And I was taking regular walks around these scenic back roads that were pretty remote. And you hear my dog, speaking of Cujo, you hear my dog barking, of course. As I was taking my walk one of the days, just a few roads away from my house, I was going through this little kind of secluded area where it's a gravel road, and I see the foliage start moving on the side of the road, and I'm just thinking, please be a woodchuck, please. But it wasn't. It was this big black bear that came out about 15 feet in front of me. Walked right out, and at that moment, I had that Cujo moment, right? It was like, there's nothing I can do to defend myself if this thing decides to attack me. I can't outrun it. I can't fight it. There's nobody around to hear me scream. That's it, and you have that moment where you're thinking, okay, this could be it. You're hoping it's not. You have fear, but at the same time, there's a certain bit of resignation, maybe, and you start thinking about what's really important, and all those little things that maybe you were, that were buzzing around inside your head, that were trivial, that were bothering you during that walk. They just they go away, right? At least for a little while. They're going to come back, but at that point, you realize what's really important. And luckily, I was just as surprised as the bear was. I kind of stop and flinch, and then he sees me and he flinched, and he ended up running, turning around, running back into the woods. And it was a big bear. Now we get bears around our area. There's a road that sometimes I take home. It's a scenic road, and many times I have bears going right across the road in front of me. I call it Bear Alley now. I was not walking on Bear Alley. I was, quite a few roads over, but still, we have pretty regular bear sightings, but I don't usually have them pop out that close to me unexpectedly. But I felt like that was the Cujo moment, right? You have plans for life, or maybe your plans aren't going as, you expect them to be, whatever it might be. But then life throws something unexpected at you. And in the case of this book, it's a rabid dog that pretty much tears apart two families. And we do have sort of a subplot. Now, I mean, while I'm sort of defending that domestic stuff, it does feel sometimes like it goes on a little bit too long. There is, we have the character of, I think it's Vic, right? Hopefully I'm getting his name right. Yeah, Vic, that's Donna's husband. He is in advertising, and they end up having a difficult time with one of their contracts. There's basically a PR issue with one of the products that they do advertising for. It's like a raspberry cereal or something like that. And we keep going back to that story, and I kept thinking, why are we going back to Vic and his story all the time? I think you could look at it as this PR fiasco was like the Cujo of his working world. Life just throws those unexpected things that you can't really anticipate, you can't really prepare for. and you hope people come out okay on the other end. But one thing that this book shows you is that you don't always. If you know the movie, you mostly know this book. There's not too much deviation. There is a major difference at the end. And there's also, I think, a subplot that I actually really liked, and that is the thing that relates it back to the dead zone. So that serial killer I was talking about, we get this sense in the very beginning that Donna and Vic's little boy, I'm trying to remember his name right now, Tad, yeah. I'm very happy that their names are right here in that flap, because I would not be able to retrieve these things. If you're new to my channel, my videos are unscripted. These are very informal videos. So Tad is convinced that there is a monster in his closet, and really King is leading you to believe that this is the spirit of that serial killer, that he is still around and he's living in Tad's closet. And as Cujo is taken over more and more by the rabies, there is a certain point at which he stops kind of thinking and acting like a dog. And you're led to believe through these various suggestions by King that that spirit has left Tad's closet and he is now inhabiting Cujo. At first, Cujo, when he's rabid, he's just kind of reacting to things, reacting to noises. But there gets to a point where he's actually strategizing. He's showing far more restraint and craftiness than he was before. And that's the point where it seems like the sort of spirit or essence or influence or something like that from the serial killer is now inside the dog. And there's other points where the characters seem to recognize there's something else going on with this dog after a certain point in the book. But, I mean, I think that pretty much covers my thoughts on this. I did enjoy this. I like I said, I actually liked it better than The Dead Zone. Is it the greatest? No, it is not. Most of it is very, very well written. I like the character work in this, except for one scene. There is a point, I talked about Donna having that affair, and there's a point where her and Vic are having basically a confrontation about it. And that scene sticks out like a sore thumb, just because how weirdly written the dialogue is. There's a strange melodrama at work there that it didn't come off as real, and which is unfortunate, because the rest of the book really does. And like I said, it sticks out like a sore thumb because it's incongruous with the other sort of characterizations that we were getting in here that felt much more real and natural. But yeah, anyhow, I liked Cujo, I guess, as much as, or I guess more than maybe I was expecting to. And makes me look forward to reading some more King, actually. So anyhow, those are my thoughts on Cujo by Stephen King. If you've read this, I always say I'd love to hear your thoughts. And as always, thank you, BookTube.